I'm Megan Skidmore. For 2.5 years, I have been talking about evolving faith journeys. I started to tire of the heaviness of this focus. I had the clear message come through. It is time for Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast to evolve into Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. With the same vulnerability and unapologetic authenticity, I will be focusing on the joy in this journey, the life and the living that comes on the other side of maybe, on the other side of what's possible. I want to talk about claiming spiritual sovereignty and becoming your own captain of your vessel. Let's celebrate releasing what no longer aligns for you and connecting with your higher power and honor expanding your energy field to make room for all things new. The vibration is high this month on Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. Pretense is dropped and caution thrown to the wind in each interview. I am dropping a new episode daily, spotlighting one of the amazing, soul-led, heart-centered authors of Joan of Arc Publishing, or JOA Publishing, founded by Kira Brinton. Like the namesake for this publishing house, each one embodies the fearless, God-centered spirit left by the legacy of Joan of Arc. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one. Welcome to my first episode kicking off this month of JOA Book Club. A lot of people have a book of the month. We're having an entire month of a book club where I am chatting with so many of my friends and members of our Mosaic Network and JOA publishers. Y'all have such great stories. And Jen, I'm so thrilled that you are kicking this whole thing off. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to share your story with my listeners. So let's just jump right in. So can you start off by giving us a brief overview of your background, your family, your origin story, where you grew up,
Yeah,
maybe your faith of origin, if that was part of your life, education, profession, just all the things that make up Jen.
sure. So I was born and raised in Virginia. I'm from a small town outside of Richmond called Mechanicsville. It took me a long time to own that one. Apparently it's called Mechanicsville because people used to get their what is it before cars, like the horse and carriage was when people would stop to get that fixed there. So there's actually a lot in Virginia, a lot of American history there. We actually had a Civil War hospital, an old building on our property where I grew up.
Oh,
So yeah, born and raised, lived in the same house since I was 3. My mom was a teacher. And as far as my faith, my mom is actually Jewish and my dad was Catholic. And it's actually like the generations up, like my Catholic grandmother was very religious, and my great grandparents were still alive when I was a kid, were Jewish, were very religious. But my parents actually, I think this is the best thing they ever did, is they introduced us to both religions, but they didn't force us to choose a religion, or that really that there was any one path to find God. So we weren't my mother was Jewish, we were not baptized, and even though, Catholic, Jewish, we didn't have like bar mitzvahs, we didn't do all of that. And then with Catholic, we didn't do baptism, but yet we went to like Jewish Sunday school and learned Hebrew, and we did the Jewish high holidays and all of that. And then
mhm.
we did all the Catholic things as well. So I do feel really grateful that it was very, like, I guess more open-mindedness. And I think that really just contributed to me just in my perspective in the world. And even in college, I had a Muslim boyfriend, and I've had dated people from all different religions and had friends with people with different backgrounds. So I would say in general, you might where I grew up, Virginia is more conservative in some ways and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, but when you hear that, actually, I think my parents were pretty progressive in that sense. But yeah, I was always drawn to, and we'll talk about this more, I'm sure. I was always drawn to fashion, and when I was a little girl, my mom used to sew me dresses, and by the time I was in preschool and I could talk, I had strong opinions about what I liked, and that was really what began my whole journey in style and expression through clothes.
that's fabulous. What a great way to grow up. Your parents didn't necessarily push religion on you, and nor did they push their specific brand of religion, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, how was that as a child? I mean, I realize that you didn't know
Yeah.
any different. Did you
Yeah.
feel a pressure to go with one over the other, to engage
Yeah.
more with one, or did you feel a pull toward one over the other? Like,
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I felt I was proud that I was introduced, that I had the background in both. I
mhm,
definitely always related more to Judaism. Like for instance, I just look more Jewish. Like I have these like hazel eyes, like just that side of the family. My brother and sister had blonde hair and blue eyes, and it was like German background and Irish background, and my dad too. So for me, even though I didn't actually like Hebrew school, I didn't like going, but I liked like in my actual school that I went to, throughout the year, there weren't other Jewish kids in our school because we lived out in the country. We went into the city to go to Hebrew school. So it was kind of interesting,
mm,
even like during Passover, my mom would make like matzah sandwiches, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and I actually liked it. I guess I liked, even though I was like a really shy kid, like when I was really
mhm,
young, I had a speech impediment and I was just always very shy. But like, I think that's partly, we're like dressing, I got to do something different. I liked that part about being Jewish and being different. We had these like different holidays, and I think, it was interesting. I think we actually, as kids, probably did more things like as far as like like because we always did Jewish like Sunday school, and then Catholic we would go to like sometimes like on Wednesday nights and different things. But it was interesting because in the Jewish like it was it was actually challenging because they make you learn Hebrew, and there's all these like
mhm,
stories, and it's very like the education there is very like they want you to like critically think about things. Like they're not just like telling you like this is what you believe. Like they want you to like have a discussion around it, and like it's almost like an English literature class of like your
yeah,
interpretation. And actually I found it very challenging because I didn't understand it. And so it was really interesting going to that, and then going to like a Catholic where they're just like, well, you just have to believe in this. And if you don't believe in you're gonna like die if you don't believe in this, or just everything around sin. So yeah, I guess I liked the more open-ended interpretation of God. So I would say I was drawn more that side. It was interesting because we had a lot of friends that were like born again Christians and stuff. And so sometimes I did get like, as I got older, sometimes like they were like, well, you have to like choose a religion, and you can't really believe, or you're going to go to hell because you don't believe in Jesus in the same way. So there
yeah.
definitely was some pressure that came as I got older, but it wasn't for my family per se.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's jump to that, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
if you can speak to, when did you or did you
Mhm.
begin to realize that maybe your religious foundation, your beliefs associated with it was maybe evolving or shifting,
Mhm.
and were there challenges to that, and
Mhm.
kind of like what that was like.
Yeah.
A lot of times we resist because of that, whether it's pull to family, if it's,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
tie, that like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm giving up our, long-standing generations faith, that kind of a thing.
Mm. Yeah. Well, this is cool to talk about because no one's really ever asked me this deeply around like my story of my faith. I mean,
Mm,
I would say like especially when I went to college, like I felt like I was a bit lost just with just my identity in general.
interesting.
I was going to art school, and then I kind of scaled back from art school, went to business school, and just kind of just trying to find like friends, just trying to figure out where I fit in. I was in this like abusive relationship when I was in my last semester in high school, so I came into college just like really raw, just really just trying to figure out who I was. And like one of the things like actually my sister, as soon as she went to college, she decided that she wanted to be Catholic. And so she actually went and converted and had a baptism, did the whole thing, and became very involved in the Catholic community there in the church, and it's still in this day a very religious person. And so and my sister's actually only like a year and a half older than me. So I actually would go and like hang out with her. Like she lived at a college, it was like an hour away, but like sometimes I would go and hang out with her and hang out with her friends. And then like she would invite me to some of her Catholic things. So there was kind of this point of like, am I going to go down the same path as my sister? Because like I liked her friend, like I liked her friends and but there was some part of it that just didn't quite click, So I think yeah, I think it was part of my exploration. I mean, I did get into like I think I took my first yoga class when I was in college. I'm 38 now, so at some point in my early 20s. So I think I just really naturally took to that, that they're just like more of like a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
And I actually went to, so if you have a Jewish grandparent, you're entitled to go to Birthright, which is basically you get to Israel for free for 10 days on this like organized trip. Like they pay for everything. They pay for your plane ticket and you go with like 40 other people, like 20-year-olds who are your age. And that was cool. I definitely felt connected to like the land itself. I've always felt like culturally Jewish. I'm like, oh yeah, like this is my
Mhm.
background. I wouldn't say it's necessarily my connection to God, but like I'm like, oh yeah, like my ancestors ate this and this is where we came from and what have you. And yeah, I did have different, I think sometimes with religion, it's like it becomes like a social group, like there was a point
For sure.
about gosh, about like 13 years ago, like there was like a young professionals group for Jewish people. And I just, I just became involved in it as like a friend thing. I mean, we didn't never do religious things, but it just became, it was like a moment in time I was more in that community, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh. It
Yeah.
does. I
Hmm.
agree. I think religion does provide that much needed opportunity for community. We're very tribal
Hmm.
of our people.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as we get older, we start to sense or however one communes with the divine or the universe, we start to get those messages in the way that we get our messages about the path that is
Hmm.
meant for us, and it might take us in a different place than
Hmm.
perhaps what our parents wanted or maybe thought we would
Hmm.
do. Or it's different than maybe what we thought it would look like, or our faith community even might have thought it would look like. But I've also found there is so much joy, even if it's a difficult path, if it's hard, it's got,
Hmm.
you know, all the pebbles and the stones and the boulders on a pathway that, some moments are a little bit harder, challenging than others, but can you speak to, and I'm wondering if the book that you
Hmm.
are writing with JOA Publishers, as well as you've written a little bit already, a
Hmm.
chapter, uh,
Yeah.
how much that played, what role those played, as you began to embrace what path you felt was meant for you, and it just, you
Hmm.
embodied that. Just
Hmm.
can you share how you have found joy or rebirth in surrendering to that path?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I graduated college when I was 23 and I had a job, an internship, but I ended up losing from a contract discrepancy. And I had saved some money through college and stuff. I ended up booking a one-way ticket to Spain and actually backpacking around the world for close to a year. I went to 19 countries.
That is so
And
cool.
yeah, like I couch surfed all along the way. I went, a lot around Europe, but also India and Japan and Turkey and Morocco, and it really just opened me. It was the best thing I ever did in my life, like
Mhm.
for sure. That really opened me on a path that forever changed the trajectory. And so I think that just really took me on a path to that I was not going to live a traditional, normal
Mhm.
path. And the thing is I actually I liked my job. I had a really great boss. I always say it was like the best boss ever. That's why I had to become an entrepreneur because I would never find a boss like that again. And so it's like I could have stayed in that path for years and probably been like, like kind of happy, but it wasn't quite the thing. I actually worked for the Department of Agriculture, if you can believe it. But so I think it's like a continual practice, like it's been 15 years. And I think you just continue to be led on different things, sometimes like swerving some off the path at times. But I think especially being in the JOA community, I mean, that's one of the greatest gifts from being and having done an adventure is just Kira is so connected to God and to like listening, and I feel like it's like a muscle, really. It's like any other skill that you want to learn, and I feel like she's really helped me hone in myself more and more on like just that really deep inner listening and like connection to God. And definitely the books I've written have, come from a different place than me just like with my mind trying to like come up with something to say. It was like actually like channeled and
Yeah,
dialed in from a deeper place.
that's so beautiful. Well, let's go there because, honestly, when I first met you and I learned that you were Jenn K of Stylegasm and your podcast is called Close Off, and I don't think I would have guessed that you were of, a Jewish and Catholic background. And that's kind of what I love about my podcast is I'm here to dispel all the myths. Let's
Mm,
just normalize that our journeys are unique to each of us. And
yeah.
what it boils down to is that we're following our hearts, the path that we know is meant for us. So tell
Mhm.
us how all of that came about. I can't wait to hear the story behind the story behind the story.
Just of like yeah, stylegasm and
All of it,
all of
yeah.
it.
As part of my commitment to giving back, every first Friday of the month, I offer a free coaching hour. Anyone is welcome to join, and you may leave your camera off and change your name if you would like to remain anonymous. This is an opportunity to get introduced to my style of holistic coaching and what it would be like to work with me, gain real skills, insight relevant to you, and fresh perspective on life circumstances. Each month is a different topic. For those attending, there will be opportunities for a complimentary one-off energy alignment session. Once registered, you will have access to discount codes for my other offerings. To get the link, including all the resources, register to complete the agreement at the link in the show notes.
Yeah. Well, I lived in after my travels and I've lived staying in the US, but I ended up moving to Paris. And then some years after that, I actually lived in Bali, Indonesia. So I like did different things in the fashion industry.
Mhm.
I worked Paris, I worked in fashion PR. I call it my devil wears Prada. So I made like €2 an hour and got yelled at by my mean bosses.
Oh
So
my gosh, that's
sounds
hilarious.
glamorous on paper, but a little different in theory. And then I just got burnt out from that. And then I moved to Bali. I wanted to start a fashion brand. So I had a small, like bespoke made to order brand and ended up closing it. I had the brand for like 3, 4 years, ended up closing it down. Realizing I actually really don't enjoy making product and I wasn't profitable by a long shot. But I really had like a deeper connection with my clients and that there was something there so much deeper than just like creating a jumpsuit for them. It was like I really cared about having a deeper conversation about really like who they are and their expression and just the deeper meaning behind style. So when I came back to the US, I really thought intentionally about what it is that I want to name my brand. Because I had brands before, and my old brand was called Wildflower, and I don't know, I felt like there's tons of flower shops named Wildflower. It wasn't really quite like memorable. It wasn't like, quite it. And the only and just as stylegasm was like that was the metaphor, like orgasm.
Definitely memorable.
Yeah. I wanted people to feel euphoric joy, in their clothes. And I always say like attract the right people, repel the wrong people. And I'm going to be too much for some people, but that's okay. Like those aren't my people. And yeah, and actually I gave a talk today, like on the as I've gone through, it was all around like being too much, and just like owning our too muchness and how we've just been conditioned and to like we can't be too much, but it's like that's who we are, you know?
Just own it.
Yeah, just own it. Yeah. And then so I started my podcast pretty recently and I'll be having some more coming out soon, but I called it Close Off because I wanted to it's like the conversations, deeper conversations around style and who we are and like our expression
Mhm.
um all throughout who we are, in our clothes, without our clothes, how we make our I don't know, just different choices or different are just a much like deeper expression of the divine feminine.
I love that so much.
Yeah,
I
thank
love
you.
all of the symbolism interlaced throughout everything that you do. So you've written a chapter that was published
Yeah.
in the very first
Mhm.
volume from
Mhm.
Mosaic Network. It's called Mosaic Messages, Volume
Mhm.
1, and that was recently published. And you're currently working on your own book as well. Can you share a
Mhm.
little bit about that? Tell us, you don't have to give all of the
Yeah.
details up, but just share a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So my book is called Radiant, and then the subtitle is So Why Are You Still Single? And I actually wrote the book, Why Are You Still Single, back when I lived in Bali in 2020. It was like my pandemic baby.
Mhm.
And I wrote it at the time because I had a lot of single clients in my business, and someone pointed out to me, well, why don't you do an event for them? And it just ended up just being this thing that just took a life of its own. And I ended up laying it to rest in 2020, and then I just, as being in this community, it just, I felt the book really wanted to be revisited, and there was something more there that wanted to be explored, and really, it's taken people on a journey because I think so often with like finding love, people put all the emphasis on like, well, where do you find a man? And really it's your own inner and outer work to get in like the fullest alignment of who you are, and that so you can easily attract that. And it was fascinating with the book because as when I went on the adventure to write it, it's the same process I do with styling of like cleaning out the love closet and becoming a match and like owning your too muchness. And and it was funny even just writing it of just all the metaphors of like women that buy a dress that's, a little bit too tight, thinking, well, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna lose weight for it, or maybe, if it's just like it's not quite right, and just be like, well, if it's just not quite right, it's not quite right. And it's just like relationships too, like where women settle, where they don't ask for what they really want, and where it's uncomfortable to go and,
Mhm.
go to find like the thing that's actually like more high end, but is actually like what is really meant for you. If you're able to just become a match to it, really.
So I find myself wondering because you really have honed in on your niche, on your what's the word? On your brand, right? Your
Yeah.
Jen's brand, what you are all about, which what your
Mhm.
message is for the world. I'm curious, what role, if any, do you think your faith might have played? Like
Mhm.
sometimes we kind of absorb it or we
Mhm.
intertwine elements of it, and
Mhm.
some you kind of like you run away from it. Maybe you had a
Mhm.
negative experience or there were certain tenets that you had to, you know, um, follow and adhere to. I mean, I know you grew up in kind of a, um, open-minded atmosphere in
Mhm.
your home,
Mhm.
but style, I mean, that's a very specific choice. And I know that's partly because that's your interest, it's your love,
Mhm.
that's what your heart is pulled to. Um,
Mhm.
but when you think of the Catholic faith or the Jewish faith,
Mhm.
style of dress, there's kind of this traditional in some
Mhm.
ways,
Mhm.
expectation maybe, or maybe I'm off. I
Mhm.
don't know. What comes up for you when I bring this up?
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, in a way, like I feel like for me in my journey, because there's like religion, there's like this
Mhm.
organized
Mhm.
community of people, and like in some way I was never completely in it, if that makes sense,
Yes,
because I was a part of two, and then even, the Jewish kids, I didn't actually go to school with them. It was just the Sunday school, and then so like for me, like faith is actually like different than like
totally. I
religion.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and so I think yeah, so like in some way I never really felt like I never really found God in either of those, to be
yeah,
honest. I think as a
yeah.
Jewish, I think it was just
No,
culture.
that's honest. That's real.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. Like, so how would you describe your, I don't know, spiritual practice, spiritual observance? Now, you mentioned how um,
Yeah.
in in Kira's world, any program or community that Kira has, yes, she's very in
Yeah.
tune with God and with the
Mhm.
divine. And so I have learned lots of new
Yeah.
spiritual practices just by being in her world. So yeah, like
Yeah.
what's yours like right now?
I would say, well, yeah, I mean, I think it first started with yoga, and then
Mhm.
when I was 25, I went through like a really really painful like relationship and breakup that like
Mhm.
there was that quote like the wound is the place that enters you. Like that was like the worst thing that ever happened, but also the thing that opened me up. And that's when I really got into meditation.
Mhm.
Um, and then that led to, more meditation, that led to like more exploration in like the different spiritual communities. And I've been involved in many really, at different times, different things. So I would say, and all of it has all of it has had value. Sometimes you outgrow things, sometimes like I was very involved in this like energy school.
Mhm.
And it definitely helped me a lot. And I still use aspects of the tools, but also realizing like, I still think like I don't like I can still like can connect, in my own way. I don't necessarily need that school to be my like connection to God. And I think I gave it a bit too much power. So yeah, I think it really
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly, but I think
Yeah, you
it's
are.
like a continual, yeah, it's just continually like honing in
Yes.
and knowing, yeah, just knowing how to like continue to like listen to that
I
voice and
I feel that.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
process, right? It's
Mhm.
almost like layering. It kind of builds. You learn one
Yeah.
thing, or you get some new information or new insight, or you learn about someone else's way that they experience their faith
Mhm.
or their spirituality, and some resonates, some may not. And yeah, I totally agree. It's
Yeah.
ongoing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, the last question I like to ask my guests, my podcast is called Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. So, what does it mean to you
Mm.
to live beyond the shadow of doubt?
Wow, so beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, I feel like that's like what we strive for, right? Like even now, I feel like I'm being called to do some a few radical things coming up in a few months, and I'm like, oh man, I want to like hold on to that, like live without a shadow of a doubt. Um,
Can you tell us what
that
they are, or is that something you have to stay tucked in
yeah, I could tell
now?
you. It's becoming pretty well. A few things. I mean, I'm yeah, I like just moved to LA right like literally the week before all the fires happened. So I'm actually going to be I guess temporarily being a bit more nomadic in the next few months and going on a few trips. One of them is actually going back to Bali. I haven't been back since I left for over 4 years ago and yeah, a few other trips. One of them is doing this actual like sacred ceremony. Yeah, this one I can't talk too much about uh all the
Sure,
details, but
that's fine.
yeah, but I've been called to do this sacred ceremony on this land outside of the country and I just
That
feel
is
all the
amazing.
pieces. Yeah,
Oh,
and make it like an art
so excited
like
for you. That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for humoring me. I have loved this conversation. So I like to throw out some for fun questions at the end.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
looking for one word answers, two tops. We're just going
Okay.
to go through them. Tell us your favorite book, and it can be your own.
Oh, my favorite book is a book called Mutant Message Down Under. Actually, I have two favorite. Can I give you my two favorite
Yes,
books?
you can.
And the other one is called South of Forgiveness.
Awesome. Are
Yeah.
you an introvert or an extrovert?
Oh, introvert, big
Somewhere.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your favorite artist?
Oh, like visual
You
artist.
pick.
What's that?
You pick.
You pick. I love Mark Rothko.
Oh,
It's like
good
abstract
one.
art.
Good
Yeah.
one. Would you consider yourself a night owl or a morning lark?
I mean, I want to, I want to be a morning clerk, but it just depends. It could go either way.
That's valid. And who's your celebrity crush?
Um, I don't know. I can't say I've ever had a celebrity
You don't
crush.
have to, yeah, that can be
Yeah,
your answer. That's fine.
yeah.
Do you do still carbonated water, diet soda fan, or some other fun beverage?
Um, I really like tea.
Awesome.
I
And
love
then,
a good matcha latte. It's like a treat too, but any good tea.
and then furthest place you've traveled a lot. So, I mean,
Yeah.
be more than one.
Bali, well, from East Coast Bali, Malaysia is like literally the halfway point. Oh, it's been like
Uh,
South Africa. It's pretty far too.
that's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been so fun to get to know you a little
Yeah.
better. So if folks wanted to connect with you, find out more about your work, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, best way is to find me on Instagram. I'm have a
Okay.
stylegasm.
Okay. I
Yeah.
will leave that in the show notes as well as the name of your book so folks can be watching for that.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your time and for joining me.
Thank you.
Writer, teacher, author, Mormon scholar, and founder of Dialogue Journal, Eugene England said, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue." As a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, my hope is that Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is an extension of that vision. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.